is 7:02, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Woohoo! Okay, due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate and alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom. The meeting number ID is 840-0877-2826, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, the Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. And this is the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, January 5th, 2022. And it looks as if we have a full house of everybody here. So Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you very much. All right, this is really good. And it looks like we also have some public participants. So if you do want to say hi and introduce yourself, now's the time. You put yourself on mute.
Yeah, Janet, this is Alan Manoyan. I'm joining you by phone tonight. So good to be with all of you tonight.
All right, good to have you too, Alan. Thank you very much. And we also have another participant of Jen Golson, who will go ahead and we'll get onto you later on in the agenda.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome. Okay, I want to make sure everybody has looked at the agenda. Is there any type of updates, anything people want to add? I keep forgetting correspondence, so I do want to add correspondence to that. But is there anything else? Can I hear a motion to accept the agenda as amended with correspondence?
A motion to approve the agenda as amended with correspondence.
All right, that's Barry and Colleen seconded. All right, let's do a roll call just to make sure. Julie?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Beth?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
And the chair says aye, so the agenda's been approved as amended with correspondence. Next is the approval of the minutes from December 1st, 2021. The only question I do have is just about the Hudlin property, which is on page 2 of 3. Beth, got a quick question for you with regards to, did the Council of Aging really say that they were looking at that property, or is that just something that was heard out by some of the neighbors?
I am not exactly sure. I think the situation was that, a resident was making that suggestion that they investigate it, but I don't know that it was significantly researched or looked at.
Right.
Carolyn McCreary did show up on that one sort of site walk that Lori Nearing held, and she's from the Council of Aging.
Okay.
I think they were just, looking
Curious.
at it too, but not.
All right. Okay, I was just checking, because again, it looks as if, with it being, it's a possible potential site, but all right. I haven't heard anything more about it, but, about the Hudlin property, but we'll go on to that afterwards. Almost set then with the minutes. I didn't see anything. Did anybody else see anything?
Not I.
No? All right. Then can I have a motion to go ahead and accept the minutes as written, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
All right, thanks, Colleen.
Seconded.
Julie seconded. All right, let's do a roll call. All in favor, Jess?
I,
Barry,
Aye.
Julie,
Yes.
Colleen,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Beth,
Yes.
and the chair says aye, so all unanimous and accepted. I should probably go in a specific order, but sometimes I just like to mess it up. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
I wonder if there's a deep psychological reveal over whether we choose to say aye or yes. Maybe those of us who say aye are really deep down egotists. Aye.
I liked Beth's change. I thought that felt very
It
progressive.
felt good. Yeah.
Apparently I'm a follower because whatever gets said before me, that's what I said. I did yes the first time, I the second.
I'll always go ahead and say, aye me, bucko. No. All right, some of the correspondence that we had, we did have a invoice for the historical preservation of the resource survey from Stacy Spies. And that was for $3,750. And that came in on December 22nd. That got approved and hopefully all paid for and everything with the monies from last year. And then the other correspondence that we did get was from Irv with regards to the update on Sandy Pond School. And just still more of how things are going to progress with Spencer Preservation Group and making sure that the town was still aware that this is the run, the spinoff for Lynn Spencer and group. And with that, making sure that some of the funds that were still available from phase one, I think around approximately $10,000 is still available to them. Robert and I both told him, yes, they were still available. So that should be fine. Then, just going on a little bit further of what's going to end up happening with phase two. And I'm sorry, Jess, it was 13,000, forgive me.
What was 13,000?
Instead of approximately 10,000 that's available. It's
Okay.
It's 13,000 that's available. And with that, so he's, like I say, just giving us an update of what the 2022 plan is, that hopefully everything else pretty much should be moving forward, and hopefully by the end of 2022, they should have it, pretty much everything, even with the exit and entrance ramps and such, should be done by the end of 2022.
How are they proceeding on that issue of the transferring the title from the volunteer group to the Inc. group?
There's still, Barry, do you have any more update? I mean, I think that they are still looking to go to land court, from what I
Oh,
understand.
yeah, I don't have any, he hasn't kept me up to date as to what's going on with the land stuff. That Inc. versus the other, was it Inc. and what is it now?
Well, I
I
think it went to Incorporated, but it was previously a private or some sort of private group or
Yeah.
something. It was the same group. They just
Yeah.
got to do the formal paperwork when they incorporated.
Yeah,
Well, pretty much, the Spencer Preservation Group has pulled all the documentation together to go ahead and go to land court. So it's moving along, so that they haven't been just sitting on their, in their laurels. So that worked out good. And let's see. The other correspondence I'll pick up afterwards, because I did get something from the Air Library as well as something from Alan that we'll go ahead again, we'll talk about when we start talking about Kitty Junction. All right, anybody else possibly receive any type of correspondence?
Nope.
All right. Okay, so moving ahead, I'm gonna go ahead, and these updates for Kitty Junction and the library archive, I'm gonna keep where they are in the agenda and allow Jen to go ahead and make her presentation to the group of what her plan is to help us out with the 5-year community preservation plan. I know you've worked with Beth before, so.
Yes, it's nice to see Beth. Well, see your face on your picture and hear your voice. There you are. I don't know, were any other of the current members on the board, on the CPC when I did the last, Jason was. Are you shaking your head? Nodding your head, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, I was there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. I'm having trouble remembering myself. Well, good to see you all. And what I'd like to do is share my screen if someone could make me a co-host.
I don't know. Cindy, are you still available?
I think
Sometimes she
Janet
lets
is-
me do that. Let me see.
on the bottom, there's an option.
I'm
for-
here. Let me turn sharing on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
There you go.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is share, I put together a rough schedule with, you'll see probably right away that I don't have actual specific dates for a number of the items because I just wanted to talk with you about the general flow, setting this up so it's a 6-month project like we talked about. And I just put, I'm looking over here because my monitor's over here. So, you know, I'm not trying to be rude. So I put, weeks that we could target, but there's nothing magical about those weeks. If we can't find a date in those particular weeks to meet, at these various things, and I'll go through this in a minute, but just so you know, don't feel like it has to be exactly what I say. What I really want to do now is talk with you about the approach, how to work on this in a flow that will get you to a 6-month time frame finishing in June. And then what I'd like to do is take the conversation about specific dates offline outside of this meeting. I don't think we need to all pull out our calendars and figure out exact dates, but I think I could work with Janet or whoever you tell me to work with regarding, let's pin down a precise schedule. But what I'd really like tonight is just to go over the general idea of how it would flow and the sequencing and kind of the rough time frame. If you tell me, well, town meeting is the week of, whatever, and we can't possibly do it then, that would be good to know. But other than that kind of big conflicts, we don't need to get into those kind of details tonight. Does that sound like does that make sense and sound like a good way to start? Okay, good. Okay, great. And then after I do this, what I'd love to do is just go around and do some intros. And I can talk a little bit about my work, but I'd also really love to hear your perspectives on this project. And what I put together was, I have this, can you see this when I change the screen? Did it change for you?
Yes.
Okay. So what I have is this worksheet that I like to do kind of live with people instead of just like a typical introduction, like, I'm Beth and I represent blah, blah, blah. That's good for me to know too. But what I'd really like to know is what are you hoping to get out of this project? What are you curious to learn, if anything? And then what do you think in your community with regard to CPA are the greatest opportunities or strengths to leverage and the greatest challenges or issues to overcome? And so that's what I'd like to do instead of a traditional introduction. So I'm telling you now because I want to give you a little time to like ruminate on that, or ruminate's a terrible word, to think about it. How about that? And while you're thinking, I'll go over that schedule first. Does that sound good? Not putting you on the spot too much? Okay. Okay, good. All right. So in order to do a 6-month timeline, what I realized as I was putting this together is I'm probably not hitting your regular meeting dates. So that's the first thing to think about. If you would prefer, and I'm open to doing it a different way, if you would prefer to really just stick with your regular meetings and not, reschedule things, I totally respect that. The one thing I'll say is I might not be able to get it done in 6 months, just because some of like the timeframes we need between meetings and between the forum to get things done, or between like getting your feedback on something and writing the rest of the plan, it may just extend the timeline a bit into the summer, if we tried to hit your regular meeting date. So something to ponder, and I'm happy to do that, but I think it will extend the timeline a little bit. But the way I did this is I put, 2 or 3 weeks is what we typically need to turn around most of our work products, except for the actual full plan. And so I have us meeting, you'll see, based on how long it will take my team and myself to get a work product to you, and then give you time to review and talk with us about it. So that's why I set this up the way I did, is to just kind of do it efficiently. So, kickoff meeting tonight, and what we'll start to do this month is talk with Janet or whoever you want us to talk with about what materials should we be reviewing, when is the latest open space plan from, are there other plans or other studies, could be regional, could be local, anything that you think we should review, because what we'll be doing is really, in order for us to understand the community and maybe how things have changed in the past decade, but just understand where you are now, we'll want to do a literature review, essentially, is what it is. And we'll also want to collect information from you regarding, what you've funded. We usually collect from the Community Preservation Coalition website, but sometimes it's not quite right, or sometimes you maybe approved something more recently and it hasn't quite made it in yet. So we always like to get your local list as well, just to make sure we're not missing anything. And then we'd like to know also if there were projects that were funded but didn't happen that we shouldn't include in our analysis. Sometimes something is approved and funded, but then for whatever reason, the project doesn't happen and the money's rescinded, or maybe it's still hanging out there. So we want to know some local things that we can't completely get the full picture on the Community Preservation Coalition webpage. So just so you know, we'll be asking for that kind of data. And what we'll be doing, the first thing we'll be doing is putting all that together into what we just call profiles. We look at, I have a CPA Fast Facts that can also be used as a handout if you want, because it will be educational for your community. But we'll look at CPA in Ayer, and we'll have a sheet on your revenue collections. We'll have a sheet on projects that you've funded, and we'll have just basic things about CPA in Ayer. And what we want to do is get that done for you to review, because we don't expect that we'll get everything exactly right the first time we do it, but we want to kind of make sense of what we're learning, give you these profiles to review. And then the other profiles that we do at the same time are profiles for each of the CPA categories. So we'll look at, if you have a recent housing plan, we'll pull data from that. But if you don't, we can pull our own, if it's not the most recent available data, we can pull some basic housing indicators into a profile and kind of compare it with whatever recent housing plan you have, and create, usually the profiles for each of these CPA categories is about 2 pages. So I'm telling you that because I don't want you to expect us to write like a 10-page report on every single CPA area. They're really profiles. They're in 2 pages, sometimes 3 if I can't fit it on 2 pages. I'm trying to figure out what are the real needs here. What are these other planning studies telling us? If you have an open space plan, even if it's not completely current, we can, take the information from that and pull in what are the greatest open space and natural resource needs. And then we do the same thing with recreation and the same thing with historic preservation, etc. And so that's what we'll be working on over the course of this month into next month, and we'll give you the drafts in that date in February is what I'm proposing, February 24th. And then what we'd like to do, I'm going to skip over the outreach thing for a minute. Then what we'd like to do is meet with you roughly a week later. And I think that actually might line up. I should just ask, when is your regular meeting? Is this your regular meeting date, the first Wednesday of the month?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll have to look at the calendar, but it's possible that that week of 2/28 actually does line up with your regular meeting date. And what I'd like to do at that meeting is review those draft profiles. And we don't actually need all your detailed comments by then. I just want to get a sense of your first take on these profiles. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is go around to whoever else you think needs to look at these, to make sure that we've got, that we're capturing everything we need to capture and characterizing things right. And then you'll just give us revisions and we can talk about how long you need after you see what it is. And, usually communities ask for, 3 or 4 weeks to review those after that initial meeting to review. So that's kind of the first major thing that we'll do in terms of deliverable and the next step for you. And so you'll see we don't actually need to meet with you next month because we won't be ready yet. And in fact, I'm out of town that first week in February anyway. But the piece I skipped over at the end, after we submit that to you, what we'll want to do is really launch into an outreach effort. And I'll get to the public forum in a minute, but what we like to do is recommend that you start outreach, in advance. We recommend that you start doing like save the date around 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks in advance. But you'll need to and we'll help you with this, but you'll need to get together press release. We provide social media graphics and flyer and email blurbs and anything else you think, language wise or graphic wise, you'll need to sort of help get the word out. And so we'll be working on that after we do the profiles. We'll also create a draft survey for you to look at that meeting in early March. And it's a survey that would be outreached at the same time as the public forum. We like to combine that. So sometimes people want us to make like a postcard, and it does, I don't know if you want to spend that, that kind of funding, but we're happy to do that. Or sometimes you can stick in a flyer with your water bill or the tax bill or whatever. So we just want to think through with you how would you want to get the word out, and what would we want to, what would you find helpful for us to provide? And we usually pair advertising of the survey with the forum, just so you kind of get both things on there. And then we'd also like to hold, I know that part of our scope was to meet with various boards and commissions. And what we find, and what I wanted to propose to you, is rather than trying to get on everybody's agendas for the 10 or 15 minutes they might give you, or maybe a half hour if you're lucky, what we find is we can have deeper conversations if we invite members from all those boards and commissions and other stakeholders that you may want to include to focus groups. We'd have one focus group on each of the CPA categories, and then you don't actually have a quorum at any of those meetings. You can, if you want, have them be public, but typically communities, typically we don't do them as public meetings. We, meet with a group of, no quorum of any committee, but just a group of stakeholders, town officials, board committee members that deal with that subject. And we just have a deep dive with these different people. And I actually like this approach because, partially because it gives us more time with them, because we typically have them go for about an hour and 15 minutes. They're not kind of up against other items on their agenda, and having it outside of a public meeting actually lets people just kind of be frank, especially if there's any issues going on in the community that they feel like they need to be really careful. And then the other reason I like doing this approach is because you can get people in the room together that don't necessarily always speak. That could be an interesting conversation to have around, could be, we would do one for each of the CPA categories. So you'd want to think about, well, who are those stakeholders we want to invite? We, we do different things in terms of, do the CPC members come? Some communities want the representative that is for that category to come to that meeting. And that's often helpful for us, because then we have you can act as a resource in case we don't know something that's going on in the community. You can sort of be there, but we would ask you to be more of an observer and a resource, because we're really trying to learn from the people we invite. And and we'll get a chance to meet and learn from each other in a number of ways throughout the process. So let me just pause there before I go through the rest of this, because this is a change, I think, from what you were expecting me to say. And I just wanted to touch in to see if you think that this could work in the community, or if you would prefer to go with the original idea of, having us get on the agendas of various boards and commissions.
I'm trying to remember the scope. I don't know. I know that we did speak about getting involved with other departments and other committees and such, but I think, I mean, I'm just stating from my like say history of having other focus groups and such. It's nice to get everybody together, and it still will end up being that you're going to meet with departments and committees. Again, it will be just something in a informal basis where again, we've had some pretty good successes for some of these focus groups, or we call them information sessions as well. So I'm definitely for it. Again, I can go ahead and look a little bit better at the scope, but I don't think we really have you on their agenda. It's more of meeting with these individuals, or, these committees or
Good,
departments.
good. That
Uh,
that sounds great to me. I'm curious, does anyone else have a opinion or a different opinion in particular on that?
Yes, I'm just interested in clearly understanding then where the public discussions would be. They would be
Yeah.
happening at our CPC meetings, and then there would be one large public forum. Is that the
Yeah.
venue for public participation then?
Exactly, and the survey. And so hopefully the survey typically reaches more people than any of the other methods, especially if the outreach is really good.
Right.
And the general public would be the virtual public forum, and then your meetings and the survey. Yeah.
Right.
And then we'd also provide a summary of the key themes we heard at each of those focus groups. We don't give detailed like transcript or anything, because we really do just want people to talk. Like, we don't want them to think we're going to be like, well, Beth said this, but we basically say these are the themes that came out of this. These are project ideas that people had. These are some priorities, and we often also kind of prod them to have a little look back at the CPA over the years and what they felt worked well especially in their category, but overall, and what maybe they are hoping to change or have a different approach on in the future. And we ask about, it's helpful to have some applicants, people who have actually received funding as well in those categories, especially if you think maybe they'd be repeat requests, but not always. I mean, you could just pick a recent applicant who received funding. It's good to talk about the process too. How was that process for you? How was our application to go through? And we, depending on who's there, we can sort of integrate different aspects. If we don't have any applicants at the meeting, I'm not going to ask people about the process, but just some things to think about. And what I often like to also share is, even if the profiles are still in draft form and you're, still looking at them, as long as you think they're good enough to share after you see them, we often do provide those for each topic, not the whole packet, but just, for the housing folks, we'll share the housing profile, let them know it's a draft, and just use that to kind of launch some talking points as well. And we'll have the list of CPA projects as well if they, want to see, oh, what has the CPA funded in this category? I don't remember everything. We also do, I skipped over this, but we'll also map where all your projects, maybe you have a map already, but we map them, and we look at, your resources. We also map your resources, historic resources, et cetera, for each category. So we can often, the focus group members also find that helpful to see the maps that are applicable to their topic. So it's kind of how we run it. But in terms of Beth's question about the public, it would be, the summaries would be public documents. So we would be sharing what we learned. And then there'd be the survey, the forum, and then the CPC meetings and the public hearing at the end.
Yep. I think that for the focus groups, if we can sort of do outreach to the key committees in town, just to make sure dates are going to work or something like that, because I think that's the tricky part, is adding a meeting to their probably already busy schedules, and then it's like if there's just one, like if you have a proposed date that you can send out to the members or the people that you think you're
Sure.
going to invite, and then, kind of finalize that date, just in the event that there would be some other conflict or something that a lot of them wouldn't be available for. But I think it could be, really very, very valuable exercises, and like you said, the dedicated time, would be worthwhile. I think that these are going to be meetings that people, who are, the appropriate resource people are going to be very interested in attending.
Yeah, and that's a great idea to check in with them. And we can be flexible if they prefer evenings, or some people prefer early morning, like before work, or other people prefer a lunchtime meeting. We're pretty flexible about the time of day, but we're happy to throw out some ideas to the folks you want to invite. So one of the things we'll want to do with you kind of, I can work with Janet, but you'll want to talk about at your next meeting is the list of stakeholders that you want to invite. And then you can just provide me with the emails, and we usually create, and we can give you the dates too if you want to, do some reconnaissance around that. But once we have the date set, what we usually do is just create a sign up genius for each one. And then and that's their RSVP that they're coming, and it gives them an automatic, confirmation with the Zoom link right away, and then it sends them a reminder email the day before with the Zoom link again. So it streamlines communication, so things don't fall through the cracks. So that's typically what we do. And we offer to either send the emails out, from me or member of my team, or you can also send them out. Sometimes we find that community members, if they don't know who we are, they may not respond to us. They may think we're like soliciting them or something like that. And sometimes we find that if a member of the community who they know, or they recognize the name, they may respond better. But we're not trying to get out of doing an email. I just wanted to throw that out to you that we're happy to do it. Or if you think you'd get a better response sending out the invite, we could just send you the Sign Up Genius link for each one. They'll have 4 different links, for who you're inviting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Okay, good. And then what we'd like to do is give you some time after that second meeting to review the survey and get back to us. It's a pretty, straightforward survey. We basically go through a little blurb about what is eligible, like, what is the Ayer CPA, like what's the percent surcharge, how much have you collected, just like a little intro. And then we go into each category, and we have like a few sentences that basically say, like, these are some highlights of needs in Ayer under this category. Just kind of educate at least a little bit, without hopefully overkill on the education, because we don't want to lose people. And then we just ask them, we have a series of kind of multiple choice questions about like priorities. We give them like a Likert scale of how important are dog parks to you, or how important are this or that. But what we want to make sure is that when we give you the survey in early March, it would end up being, or we'd give it to you on the 24th, but we'd talk to you about it in early March. We want to really know, and you can take some more time if you want more time after that to look at it, but we really want to know, are we asking the right multiple choice questions for Ayer? Like, are there other things you want us to ask that are, and we just might not know what all the right thing. We can guess based on other work we've done, but we just want your feedback on that. And then we have open-ended questions for each category as well, saying do you have any ideas for project possibilities, or any other ideas you want to share? And then at the end, we ask, if you were to, weigh the importance of the different CPA funding categories, would they all be equal in your mind, or are some more important than others for Ayer at this time for the next 5 years? And so we just give them a chance to sort of think overarching priorities as well. And then usually we end the survey by forwarding them to a link where they can sign up for the forum, just so we can sort of streamline them or funnel them into the public forum. So that's that, and I can go on to the next couple of months here, but I just want to pause and see if anybody had any questions or other thoughts at this point.
No, I think the only thing I just wanted to go ahead and bring up, like, during our next couple of meetings, I know we are going to be having public hearings because there are going to be 3 projects that are going to be coming to the Springtown meeting for financing.
And
Okay.
And,
one more,
pardon?
and one more as well.
Oh,
Okay.
and one more? Okay. I'm finding out.
Do you think that that March meeting you won't have enough time to do this with me?
I, I'm going to pause because it's like, okay, because we're going to try to get as many done in February as possible.
Yeah.
So I think, how long, I mean, it's usually about, you're going to want at least 45 minutes,
Well, I
correct?
guess it depends on how detailed you want to get with me. If you just want me to kind of touch base on the profiles in the survey without getting into like detailed comments on them, then I could probably do like a half an hour. But I think it would be hard to do less than that because I am going to give you a fair amount of material.
Yeah. And then,
Janet, I
go ahead.
I don't see us having the public hearings really till March anyways, so
Right,
that
until March,
maybe
yeah,
we'd have to have a special meeting
yeah. And
with
after I
Jen.
thought about it, they're going to be showing the applications in February.
Yeah.
So it's going to be March
Okay.
in the public hearing. And then we'll have to have them all done, because end of May is normally the Springtown meeting. Am I right? I
No,
looked
it's
at
end of April now.
end of April now because May's the election. Okay. Um, so yeah, I mean,
I kind of anticipate that it might make sense for the hearings to be later March, just because I know there's still things in the works for, I mean, and are we just going to do one hearing night for all 4 projects or so I think maybe a late March hearing might make sense. And then we could kind of dedicate more of our regular March meeting time to discussing the plan.
I think that might be good because again, I was gonna ask everybody, it looks as if March, we may have to have, at least 2 meetings. So, as long as others can go ahead and make it, I think that might be good. So, I agree, Beth, that we just focus in on the hearings on one meeting and then have Jen make her presentations during a regular meeting. I think that works out well. How about everybody else? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Excuse me.
I guess my one question is looking at meeting her, Jen's timeline for meeting 3 would also be late March as well. So then that might need to shift, maybe
Okay.
to the April meeting, might make the most sense.
Yeah, and I think that that would make sense and it wouldn't affect the timeline too much as long as we still, the other thing I'm worried about is you said that the end of April will be Springtown meeting. So if we moved meeting 3 to early April, then I'd want to move the public forum a little bit later. But we'll want to avoid town meeting. So maybe that ends up pushing the forum into May. And then I think we'll actually push this into the summer, which may not be ideal for you just because I have the hearing of the plan. That would mean the hearing for the plan would probably be in July or something, which you may not want to do, but it's up to you if you think you'd still get. I don't want to put you in a situation where you get criticized for, holding a public hearing on the plan when, if everybody's on vacation or something.
My gut feeling is people are usually around. We do have people participating, during summer. I mean, you try to not get close to the 4th of July, but we still have our meetings July and August. So it's, unless there's nothing on the agenda, then we may not have one in August, but we're usually hearing people do, pretty much attend. Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. That's great. And also what we can do is post the revised draft plan because I'll want you to look at it first. Then I'll revise it and then you'll post it. You can post it a few weeks prior to the public hearing so that people also have a chance to submit comments if they can't come to the to the public hearing itself.
I like that.
Okay. Okay, so that makes sense for listening to what you're saying, to shift meeting 3 to early April, which will correlate, it should, with your regular meeting anyway. And then I'll shift the public forum to early May, and I can try to hit your regular early May meeting, first Wednesday. I'll look at the calendar to see if that works. And then I'll just shift everything accordingly. Like I'll try to keep roughly the same amount of weeks between things, and just shift it. And I think it will shift it into July at the end. Okay. Does that sound good does anyone think that there's an issue with that at all? Okay, great. And so just let me quickly review the rest of the schedule. You've probably already read it by now, but after the public forum, we do a summary of what we learned. And it's very interactive, just so you know how we've been working even with COVID. I can't remember 10 or whatever years ago it was that I did your first plan, if we did a big public forum or not. I feel that we did, but my memory's a little shaky on it right now. But what we typically have done before COVID is we'll get, a traditional public forum where we have people at, tables, and we break them out into small groups, and we do, really brainstorming around priorities and things like that, and we move them through each category and that kind of thing. But what we do instead now for almost 2 years, which I actually can't believe it's been almost 2 years that we've been in this pandemic, but we've really shifted everything to be online, and we've found that it actually works pretty well, because people who, and I don't know if you've found this in Ayer or not, but we find that people who may not come out to a public meeting might participate online, because it's a little bit less of a commitment. You don't have to go out go out anywhere. Kids will be sleeping or whatever, no sitters. So what we do is we use something called Poll Everywhere. We've also used the polling software embedded in Zoom, but we find it's like a little bit less features. With this Poll Everywhere software we use, you can actually do open-ended questions too, which is really nice to give people that chance to just sort of like write sentences or sometimes paragraphs, but we can do word clouds too, which is kind of fun, and then also polling. And we integrate that throughout our presentation and throughout the event. And then we have open comments at the end, and we also do the Q&A, and we keep the chat open. We basically use all the Zoom features that you're allowed to use and keep it as open as possible, and people have reacted really well to it. And then we just, at the very end, we say you can also raise your hand and we'll actually unmute you, promote you, and you can speak to the committee or to us if you want to. And at the end, we find that, sometimes we do have a few people who still want to say something live. But what we usually find is that people feel like they've already contributed everything they had to say by the time we get there. Anyway, so that's how we typically do it. And we can, talk more about the design and what we include in that and everything going forward as we get closer. And then from there, after the forum, we'll summarize the results from this Poll Everywhere software and any Q&A we got and all of that. We'll make some sense of it and identify some key themes and priorities that we're hearing. And then we'll prepare an outline of goals and priorities for overall, but also for each category based on what we've heard so far. So that'll be based on the survey, the forum, and the focus groups, and then anything we've also learned from the literature review and the data collection and all that. It's just going to be an outline, because I don't like to spend a ton of time writing like elaborate descriptions of things before I show it to you guys and say, are we on the right track here? Or sometimes we give you, if we're hearing, different options that maybe are competing with each other and it's a little bit unresolved, sometimes we'll say, we're hearing both of these things, and, you guys kind of have the final say about what the priorities are. And we'll present that in a way that, kind of weighs pros and cons. This is where we're hearing different things. So it kind of depends on what is coming out of the process. Sometimes we don't need to do that, or often I would say, we don't need to do the choices thing, because what we're hearing is a lot of unified opinions. So that's what happens in, after the public forum, and then we'd want to meet with you to review the results, but also that draft outline and get your feedback on, changes and whatnot. And then we'll actually sit down and write the whole plan. And you'll see we pull the profiles in that we worked on early on. We pull them right into the plan. We, write up the goals and priorities and a background on CPA. And we'll pull in anything that's still relevant from your old plan. I haven't looked at it lately, but it's so old at this point that what you'll probably get is something pretty fresh. But we can look and see if there's anything, that's still relevant to just kind of pull forward into the new plan. And then we give that to you to review first. And we like to give you, usually a week to 10 days, but if you tell us you want more time than that, then that's fine. We can work that into the schedule. And then we'll meet with you, go over your comments, and we always ask you to submit like detailed typo kind of things just by an email or something, but just to really talk about more substantive stuff at the meeting. And then we'll revise it, do the public hearing, we'll present virtually as well, and then revise it based on any public comments or town official comments or whatever that we get, and then you'll approve it at the end at the final meeting. So hopefully you'll approve it at the final meeting is the plan. So that's how we typically go through it. And so before I get into the Q&A thing, does that make sense? Do you have any other thoughts or comments or questions?
It makes sense. I mean, we do always have, as well, in October, a special fall town meeting. So it would be nice to have everything all completed so that we can go ahead and present it, then, so that people know, again, where the funds are going to and such. So.
Yeah, that should be fine. I think we'll wrap up with a public hearing in July, and then I guess your final approval would probably be your August meeting then.
That's what I thought. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. I know.
Great.
And Jen, go ahead. Somebody else has a question? I didn't know if anybody. I know we've got some public participants. I didn't know if there was just something. Sarah, is there any question?
Yeah, my one question when I was listening and she was mentioning the public forum, and I was thinking like all these great, digital tools are so great, but like during the public hearing, like I really want to be able to make sure that I can see and hear what other people are saying, like during the forum as well. Like it's really important for me to know like what the planning board chairman, vice chairman are hearing. And if we're just like entering data into something, and we're only getting to talk at the end, I'm going to be missing something from the experience. And everything sounded great. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Sarah, I'm curious. Thank you for offering that. I'm curious, have you seen these forums done in a different way where people are, more live speaking with each other?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't, but you can like really like I don't have I attend a lot of planning board meetings, but I don't like I don't get to ask them. Well, that's not a good example, but it's like there's just opportunities like to get to see what other people think at these forums too. Like we did them for the Affordable Housing Committee last year, and I did get to learn what people thought, like without them being in their like official position. But no, I don't have another answer. So.
I actually had the same thought during the description because I think that the tools that you're utilizing sound really, really great. And I like the way that you don't have to wait for someone else to speak first. Like everybody can really make sure that they're doing their brain dump and feel satisfied in that way. But I also felt like maybe some breakout group component would be good just so that people could cross-pollinate more and feed off of each other's energies and ideas, because there is really a richness to that as well, I think, in these types of meetings. And I have seen I was just participating in one with Page Hilltop School actually this afternoon. Colleen was there too, where we broke into breakout groups, and I think it was really effective and productive. So it maybe a little bit of a combination might be worth exploring just for the different types of participants and learners and people's comfort levels.
Yeah, and so if we're happy to pivot and do, if we wanted to do breakout rooms on Zoom, we can do that. We would want to make it a Zoom meeting like this is, rather than a webinar format. And what we would also ask is that you all be available. You have 8 members right now, not 9, is that right?
We have 7.
Oh, you have 7. Okay. Is that your official count?
Yes.
Okay, I forgot that. All right.
We
So
would-
what we'd want to do is get registrations so that we know how many people are coming. Because what I would need is for each of you to be in one of the great breakout rooms. So what I don't want to happen is have just, random members of the public come and be off in a breakout room by themselves and not really understand, like, what are we doing? I don't even know what CPA is, or like, and just be a little bit confused or lost without your guidance. And so I would want to just make sure that you all could be there and would be willing to facilitate breakout rooms. And then if we're seeing that the registrations are so great, and I don't know that that would be the case, but just this is like worst case scenario or best case scenario planning. If the registrations are so great, then we'd want to pull in some other members of, maybe other planning board members or other town officials or other kind of people who know enough about CPA that they could be helping to lead those focus, the breakout rooms. That's my only, and it's just it's more logistics and sort of more work on your end just to bring you in that way. But I'm happy to do that if you think that would work well.
Yeah, I would go ahead and put that in the to-do list, Jen.
Okay.
Just because I do get a good sense of better feedback when it's a small group, because some people don't like to speak in a larger group.
Yeah.
And this week here, you can bounce stuff off of each other a little bit better too as well.
Yeah.
So I know that I've been in a couple of them where it's amazing it's like, oh yeah, I really didn't think about that. And bang, all of a sudden now another tangent, happens.
Yeah.
So,
The only other, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I don't even know where that phrase came from. I should look that up and make sure it's not totally inappropriate to say. But I don't want to be, the pessimistic one over here. But the only other caveat I have is that I'm not sure how open meeting laws would work with the breakout rooms because we can't record them. Members of the public can't witness them. And I just don't like, you'll advertise this as a public meeting, and when we're in the full group, it's easy, right? But you might want to just check with your town attorney to just make sure that it's okay to do that and it's not a violation of open meeting law.
okay.
Okay, but we have time to figure that all out. But that's good we're having the discussion now. So let's get into this, and I hope that I'm not taking up too much of your time. Do you have a lot of other things on your agenda?
We have
A few things.
yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we be as efficient as possible about this? And what I want to do is just go one by one, and I want each person to answer all the questions at once. And I'm just gonna like type away as you're talking. And what I would challenge you to do is really listen carefully to the people who've gone before you, because I'd like to hear something new from each of you. You can say like, I agree with so many things, but here's something nobody has said yet. And it's going to be the hardest for the person I choose last. But it's a good, we don't need everybody saying the same thing. I'm sure you can think of new things to say. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call on the people who've spoken the most last, and the people I haven't heard from, I'm going to call on you first. And so what I'm going to do is call on, let's see, I think I'm going to pick on Jason first.
Can I just say something really quick before we start that?
Yeah, Jess.
Debbie Downer was a fictional Saturday Night Live character in 2004 and on, so you're not saying anything official.
Okay, good. Good. I never know with pop culture. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I not supposed to say that? All right, good. Okay, so Jason, why don't you go ahead? What are your 3 hopes for this project? I can't hear you for some reason, although you're not muted.
I had my phone on mute. Sorry.
Okay, got it.
I don't know that I can really answer any of these questions right now. I wasn't prepared to do any of this, and like my mind is just elsewhere. to be quite
Okay.
honest with you.
No worries. Do you have one hope for what you want to get out of this planning effort?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
I
we can
got
also,
nothing.
Jason, we can circle back to you at the end if you think of anything after hearing the other CPC members. Okay, Barry, your turn. And then I'm going to pick on Julie after that. Sorry, my daughter's name is Julia.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think about these things, but I know what comes to my mind. I'd like to kind of know what kind of a job we're doing. Are we servicing the Ayer community? Are we servicing him? You know, are we attentive to what the Ayer's needs are? And are we doing that job well? What can we learn? I guess we could learn. Maybe we can communicate better or educate people better about what the CPA process is and how it can help, whether it be historical or open space or recreation in that respect. So,
Great.
and at that, I'm out of gas.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, Julie, and then I'm going to call on Jess.
So I think in fairness, my answer was going to be, I actually was thinking exactly what Jason was saying. And so I think it's important maybe to highlight that a little more, that as people who are volunteering in our town and on many other boards, because that's how CPA and CPC works best, right? We're a little stretched thin in this pandemic. And so it's a little daunting to be future planning at this time, but I see it as important for our town. And so I guess I hope that important work will lead us on the correct path with these funds. And to jump off of what Barry is saying, I love it. And so I would add as a new thing that I hope we are also attentive to the future needs, like our future selves and new residents in this process.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, great. Okay, Jess, and then I'm going to call on Beth.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I sort of clutch on, top three hopes, but, hope we get this done in a good way. Hope it's an informative plan that really keeps us going for the next 10 years. And so on. In terms of curious, one of the things I'm curious about is actually seeing how the community's position on, say, open space versus affordable housing has changed over the last 10 years, or if it's changed. Be another, and then yeah, just seeing what our priorities are. And then in terms of greatest opportunities or challenges, I'm going to go right to Debbie Downer land and the challenges. And that would probably just be, the continuing challenge in Ayer of getting more people or residents to participate, either as volunteers on boards or just to engage with processes such as this survey. And to add on to what Julie said, everybody's pretty overstretched. Part of that is because there's not a huge body of volunteers in town, and we have a lot of repeat people in a very number of categories. So how we can reach out down the road and have a community preservation plan that really does have community participation. So.
Okay, great. All right, I'm going to do Beth and then Colleen.
Okay, so yeah, I just really am excited and hopeful, I guess, for learning more about the the public's interest and desires for our community. I feel like we're at this really interesting crossroads for a lot of different things, and changing so rapidly that it'll be interesting to see what kind of input we get And I don't know. I think one of the greatest opportunities is really with the new 3% funding and the added state match that we get as a result of that. We've got new funding opportunities, and also the new housing trust, I think, are the things that just enable us to do so much more than what we've done in the past, especially in regard to the housing category. But just the added funding really opens us up to leverage more funds and also, invest more in projects that are really meaningful for the community. And so there's just this opportunity, I think, for raising more awareness about what CPA is and the good things that it does in our community, because we're just going to have more of a presence when we can invest more. Curious to learn, I think, is just really what what people are thinking about. And also your thoughts on, just learning from what other communities do, and, the advice that you can offer us, at this transition, to really understand, how we can leverage the resources and think creatively about outreach to the community and getting more input. And I know that was one of the things that we really talked about 10 plus years ago with you, in particular with open space. And we have done a fair bit to advance open space, and we do have an updated open space and recreation plan, but there's still this like lack of opportunities. The opportunities aren't arising. And so I think, that's one thing that we'll still continue to be talking about. How do we do better outreach to landowners and, have the impact that we're hoping to have?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely that would fall underneath one of the challenges.
Yeah, great. Okay, good. And so did I say Colleen? Yeah, Colleen, and then Janet, I think you're the last one. Oh, no, I missed, sorry, I keep forgetting about Cindy.
No, Cindy's our IT director.
Oh, okay, got it.
You don't want me.
She's our overlord.
Okay. All right, Colleen, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my hope for this project is that, that we do come out with some new ideas for projects, ways that we can use the CPA funds to better the town. And so I'm really curious to hear, in those public forums, what public priorities are and what, the people in the town are thinking, that maybe that will help some new ideas for projects sort of bubble to the surface. And I think the idea of the focus group with the different stakeholders in town is really an interesting opportunity to also hear about pieces of things that might be percolating in committees. I mean, the way the CPA committee is structured, we have representation from a lot of town committees, but I think getting more of them in this, discussion forum together might also, I think, bring forward some interesting ideas. And I know that this has sort of been said in a few different ways in terms of a challenge. I think being back in a virtual world, isolated, does make open, communication and brainstorming more challenging than it is when, people can be in person and everybody is tired and overstretched. And so I do hope that we can engage people in the process, across all these different groups when everybody is tired and fried.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Janet. Oh, you're on mute again.
Okay, now I realize it. All right. One thing I gather, probably because of management background, is I want to make sure that my hope is show accountability, that we do know that we are one of the major fundraisers, or has, most of the funds of the town. And I want to be sure that we are using those monies wisely. So my hope is that it shows it. I think we've been pretty good of telling our success stories. We've got them listed on the website. So that should make your life a little bit easy, Jen. So with that, it's more of making sure the monies are going where the town wants the money to go. I know in the beginning, we got reduction to 1% because people did want to see monies go more to community housing and historical. So bringing it back up to 3%, like Beth was stating, we do have more monies coming in. Let's make sure it's being used in the right spots, and that people know what the CPA funds, how they come in, how they're being used, and that they're available for the town. I think that's one of the major things. And I emphasize too, trying to get more of the community involved, one way or another, either through our forums or just feedback. It's good to have people like, like say Sarah or, some of the other individuals that do show up for meetings, to know what's going on. So I think that's, yeah.
Great. Okay, I think I got everyone, right?
I think it is.
Okay, after hearing your fellow committee members, does anyone else want to add anything to this or say a here for anything someone said?
I would just add, this past summer, under the guidance of Mr. Minoyan, the town did a sort of air festival. I can't remember what we called it at the time. It was for the 150th partly, wasn't it?
Hometown.
Yeah, hometown. Yeah, and there was just so many comments on the town's social media page about, oh, this was so great, we should do it every year. And so things that we can do that are community, or that we can help, encourage, that are also similarly community building and making people feel they really are part of a town would be good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, good.
Oh, Alan, are you on here? I didn't mean to say anything complimentary.
That's all right. I'll let you go this one time.
Okay.
All right. Any other additions? Okay.
Good.
All right. Excellent. Well, that was my whole agenda. So I don't know. I'm happy to stay on if you have other questions for me, but that was everything I had hoped to talk with you about tonight.
Oh, I know that this is being videotaped, but Jen, if we can get a copy of that, that would be great too.
Yeah, I'll clean it up a bit because when I type, it doesn't come out quite right. So I'll clean that up a bit, and yeah, I can send that off to you. And I'll also revise the schedule based on what we talked about. And then Janet, should I just work directly with you to figure out the exact dates and all of that? Yeah.
I think that would be good, and then I can go ahead and reach out to the group, and then we'll find out whether or not the group wants to do a subgroup or whatever. And I think that might be helpful as well, so that
Great.
we all learn from each other. Right?
Perfect. That's
Any-
great.
Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Jen, thank you so much.
Good to see you all.
You got it, and
We'll
hopefully
see
by
you,
the
John.
end of,
Thank you.
yeah, hopefully by the end of this, we might be able to meet in person.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Jen.
Thank you.
All right, I think that would be really good. Yeah, do people think that it would be nice to have like maybe a subgroup, to work together on this? I know.
Well, let's see where we get. I think that's,
Yeah.
let's see.
Think
how-
about it. Yeah, I just wanted to plant that seed. So, all right, I thought that was very good. So, we've got our work cut out for us, which we sort of knew. All right, moving on with the current business. I know that we've got an update coming from Kitty Junction, because we've got Jason and Beth. I didn't know you were, on that group, but we've got Alan here as well, who wants to go ahead and tell us a little bit of the community engagement and design process outline. Alan?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Janet, if you don't mind, can I start?
Oh, I'm
with this
sorry.
to
Go
kind of
ahead.
give it-
Please,
Yeah, just
thank
to
you.
give an update on Alan, I'm gonna just update where we at with the project as a whole. And then
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about your outline for engagement if you would. I appreciate you putting that together. We still don't have any numbers from Beta, and that's okay. We should be getting them soon. We obviously had to close the park down. I think that happened after our last meeting.
Mhm.
We had to report our findings to the DEP. We didn't know at the time when the EPA found the arsenic, 15 years ago, whatever. They never really told the town that we had to report anything. They said basically, and I wasn't around, but from what I understand, they said, don't worry about it unless you want to remove it. And when we engaged Beta, part of that was the remediation study and doing new testing. They did new testing, but before they did that, they recommended we report to the Mass DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, the original findings that the EPA came up with. So we did that. They told us to close the park down, so we had to under their, basically order. So we fenced it all off. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. We did get the new testing done, and the samples came back. It's encouraging. They don't think we're gonna have to remediate to the most extreme level. We still have to, get some more details on that, but there's an indication that we probably just need 6-inch remediation. We won't necessarily need to cap anything. So that being said, obviously it's a cheaper remediation, but also it's an opportunity to save the trees. If we had to do like a foot of remediation and caps, we're probably tearing out most of all, not all of those trees. So it was encouraging. We believe we should be able to keep the trees with minimal remediation of the site. We still have to talk about the demolition and the removal of the material, but that removal of the material, we don't think is going to be a huge expense. It's the remediation and the hauling of, that soil. That's going to be the big expense for that. But hopefully, since it's minimal, that'll free up more funding because we're going to bid this project as a whole: remediation, removal, and reconstruction. So the less we have to spend on the remediation and removal, the more we're going to be able to spend on a new structure. So that's kind of where we're at now. We're getting close to getting some numbers from Beta. Hopefully we should get them soon. We'll I don't want to say we definitely will have them, but we should have them for the February meeting. Alan has put together a great outline of dates, and we're going to try to set up a meeting with some of the sort of leads of the project, tomorrow or Friday or early next week to put some structure behind the actual project going forward. But I think we're off and running. It's an aggressive timeline. I think we can do it. Whether we do it in phases or we do it all in one, it is, we'll figure it out as we go. But we're off to a start as it is. So with that being said, Alan, thank you very much for putting that timeline together and sending that out. If you want to go through what your draft is and talk about that and the town engagement, which I think is going to be hugely important to this project.
Oh, absolutely, Jason. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Well, yeah, I just want to say we're the Ayer Office of Community and Economic Development. We're really thankful. We were, invited into the great process. The Park Commission, Jeff Thomas and all, and Beth, and I know, they did great in identifying what we think is the right on, grant source for a portion of the project, which is the Massachusetts Land and Water Conservation Fund grant through the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. So what we're going to do, starting right off into this year, is sort of a model community engagement process. We're going to score exceedingly high on that competitive grant. So yeah, we're laying out. We want our entire community to be directly involved in designing, this wonderful future playground or recreational amenity, making sure, it's all inclusive. We have our newly established Disabilities Commission in Ayer. So we want to get them involved in it as well, which is great. And again, just doing a lot of, we like getting out, you folks know, we want to get folks right out there on site in the park, do some visioning and design sessions right out there with, again, commission partners, the public. We want to have some great public forums doing visual preference surveys with different types of, playground amenities and all. So, and all this again is designed to show that we did an outstanding community engagement process. That's what's going to win us the grant, for sure. Ayer is an environmental justice community as well. So this time we're really going to make sure when we do this engagement that we're outreaching. We'll do our outreach communications not only in English, but in Spanish, in Korean. We have a large Korean population, so we're really going to show we're reaching out. And as Jason said, we're just glad to be working with everyone on this. I think it's going to be one of the great landmark projects of the generation. So we're looking forward to it and working closely with the Community Preservation Committee. So it's going to be an exciting project for 2022.
Yep, I'm glad, that we're able to go ahead and have the funding source to assist. And if the grant works out, that's even better. And it looks as if, you've got quite a good represented, group of individuals and committees and such. So I think that works out well. And from what I hear about the Disabilities Commission, of the plan for the park of having, swing sets and everything else available for all individuals. I think that that's going to be awesome.
That's thank you. Very exciting. And we want to make sure we're going to bring in an outreach to the high school athletic director, even so, any of the Council on Aging, which is right there by Peroni Park, and just really design something for the, next generations that may be, and this is just me talking, might be designed not just for young children, but maybe, when the parents are there, or that they might be able to do a little bit of, physical stuff as well when the kids are playing, maybe grandparents, and again, folks with disabilities, all of it. I think Ayer is we should do this and win a state award, a state model, and other communities will look to us to say, this is how it should be done when you do these types of things. So everyone's going to be involved.
I like it. And Jason, thank you very much about telling us about the trees. That is really good because I know that that's been, quite a topic. So.
Yeah, and we're hopeful. We still have to get into the design, but like I said, the initial reports are encouraging. I mean, we may thin them out just because there are some kinds that may be a little dangerous, but I think we'll be able to keep a good portion of them and keep the shade. So
keep the Conservation Commission in mind if you're doing tree removal of the buffer
well,
zone.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I mean, Alan has him as a representative as part of the team here,
You're
so.
right up on the list. And I'll say just because of that part of this grant, we score high if we can show as we design this new amenity that there's a strong environmental education component to it. And anything that we show that it connects with wildlife habitat, waterfront. So, yes, conservation, we're going to really need you folks to guide us with all of that.
I've been thinking about it a lot because one of the things that we've sort of discussed is the possibility of if we're phasing so that there might be something open for use while construction is happening, like we could do a phase one that would actually be closer to the pond. And again, this is not formalized at all, but that we need to understand any concerns with activities within that buffer zone. But there's a natural hillside there that I think would be great for, like using for slides and climbing structures and things, incorporating it into the hillside. But we need to understand your comfort level. It's obviously already existing disturbed area. and that we could do a lower impact, installation there. But, just wanting to understand before we get into a lot of design details, what the input of the commission would be. So we'll have to get a site visit with you guys out there too sometime soon, I think.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention that hadn't been mentioned is the opportunity for other fundraising. So, a lot of other towns have done projects where they are selling pavers, or they're selling pickets for the fence that goes around the perimeter of the playground, or they're reaching out to businesses in town to see if they want to sponsor structures and components of the playground and have naming rights and things like that. So this, I think, is a really, positive opportunity as well. And if anyone knows of anyone who's interested in that kind of thing, I feel like there's a great volunteer opportunity for someone to get involved with that kind of an effort. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Beth, I agree with you. I think I can tell you right now, I think there are a number of corporations and companies in Ayer that would love to associate with the project and contribute. And I would be willing to bet, as we start this whole process with the entire community, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if an individual or family in Ayer stepped forward and made a major donation as part of it. So I think it's going to afford an opportunity for a lot of civic good. Yeah.
All right. That sounds awesome. Anybody else have any feedback? Okay. I don't know whether or not we've got any other public participants. Again, I'm going to reiterate that if anybody has any questions while you're, watching this over on APAC, go ahead and get in contact with Town Hall. If you've got questions or concerns, like I say, send Carly an email and she will make sure that it gets back to the committee. So, go ahead, Jess.
We're not being live broadcast though, are we?
No, we're not live broadcasted right now. No, it's just on Zoom. We're being recorded and they'll go ahead and replay it. So, all right, if there's nothing else on the Kitty Junction, I'm just going to move to some of the correspondence that I did receive from the library archive. Samantha Benoit will be able to make a presentation at our February meeting. It looks as if the total amount that they're looking for is going to be $25,000. She did give me some of the draft information that they have. And one of the items is that they received a support letter from the Lowell Sun, the parent company for the public, the Neshoba Voice. So with that, I thought that that was pretty impressive, that they want to make sure that this information is available digitally. So I thought that was that was good. So that was the only other thing that I had with regards to the library archive.
And Jan,
yeah.
Jan, can I make one comment to that item as well?
Sure.
I just want to say, as myself, the Director of Community and Economic Development, I have for years before Ayer and going back in many places where I have my career, the reason we're able to really connect with communities, we do economic development and preservation work and all stuff. I go in and I constantly use the historic newspaper archives. I've done, and that's how I was able to learn so much about Ayer, the buildings, the history. So it's not the archive thing. It's very good because it's a resource about the past. But that historic content, especially from the newspapers, is so useful to our current and future efforts. So I'll just make that comment that I think this is an outstanding project what Samantha and the library is proposing to do, with make sure everyone has access to that. And so there'll be a letter of support coming from my department as well. So
Excellent.
that is outstanding in our opinion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that feedback, Alan. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's not just for people who are curious about what went on. There is actual reasons for it too, as well. So,
Yes.
all right. Anything else? Go ahead.
So at our next meeting, we'll have presentations possibly on Kitty Junction and then
And library archive.
library archive.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And the only other one possibly maybe the Housing Trust. That's the only one that might get an application done up by then. So,
Okay.
okay, that's for February. And then anything else on current business that people have? I know that I have underneath new businesses, open space research, just to let people be aware that I've gone through some of the tax title properties that are available. Many of them are very, very small. Some of them are large, but it looks as if, and Julie might be able to help me on this, some of them, majority of them are undevelopable residential, undevelopable commercial, undevelopable industrial. And if it's marked undevelopable, something tells me that it's probably wetland. Or it's being used as a retention pond, or I thought my cat was good. And, that's what I believe. That's the reason why it's undevelopable, and there's nothing else that we can go ahead and do with it. But there are approximately 20 properties, but some of them are as small as 0.12 of an acre. Some of them are larger. I'm looking at one and I'm trying to figure it out, of almost 25 acres, but it's undevelopable industrial, I think it was. So it's out, trying to remember, it's off the top of my head. But it's like, these types of items. And what I'm trying to do is I made I came to conservation meeting to go ahead and talk about on how we all have got to keep ourselves aware. And Beth, you mentioned it with regards to, reaching out to landowners or building, people who have their buildings that are properties that they want to go ahead and make it for sale, make people be aware of, we are looking for open space for housing. We are looking for, houses that can probably be converted, or other businesses that might be able to be converted to housing opportunities. Let people be more aware. So I went to conservation. I'm going to be on the planning board agenda as well, so that I can go ahead and talk about that. And then I've been pushing a little bit to members of the land use group to be able to talk with them about the openings. I found out that they call the land use group land use because it is a meeting of all different departments that are, it used to be called like planning and development group, but now they have renamed it to land use because this is how the land is being used, the projects that are on specific land. So no matter what, I want to go ahead and just keep going in people's faces and say, we need to be aware of, the growth that's happening within the town, as well as what other opportunities that may be out there that we could jump on. So, again, I just wanted people to know that it is on, for open space research, it is always ongoing. All right. I know we're can come. Go
And
ahead.
also when people see things that people in the town might not know about, reach out.
Correct. Yeah. And again, just contact town hall. I mean, word will get out one way and another. And if we keep telling the different departments to, contact us, especially since we've got a conservation fund that we can use for, for properties. We've also got additional the 3% that we can start using for housing. I mean, we do have some funds available. So let's go ahead and that's why we have Jen to, to help us with our CP, community preservation plan. So, all right, anything quick with regards to committee report? Go ahead.
No, before you move off of new business,
Right, sorry.
the John Schmallenberger and I met with the town manager, Robert, and Dan Van Schalkwyk from the DPW a few weeks ago before Christmas, talking about the issue of Flanagan Pond access, creating that. And I think Dan has a very good point. There are several points along Flanagan Pond that could be potentially used, but Dan's suggestion is that actually we do try to get a consultant to do a pros and cons look at all the different access points. And instead of us just deciding, well, let's try here, let's try there. So we're thinking that that would be a application this spring for CPC funding for that study.
Excellent.
There is one area where we thought there's probably a good spot, that some town-owned land off of Old Sandy Pond Road, that we could maybe create a boardwalk out. And I thought that was great, except that there've been nesting swans there this past summer. And so, you know, that would be a con, but that it would be a pro in other ways. So we need a careful evaluation. So Dan is, I think, getting some numbers together in the next week or two. And I said I'd help with the CPC application. We're wondering the feasibility of submitting a pre-application and application together.
There's
Yeah.
no problem.
No problem.
I wonder though, is it possible to add boat launch at Sandy Pond?
That's,
To
I
investigate
mean,
that?
Jason can maybe say something on that. That's been talked about. I think Jeff Thomas has talked about that in the vicinity of the basketball court area now. But that's one, if the town were to do it, if that was feasible down the road, that's something we could perhaps get the state to pay for.
Yeah, we've talked about it. The issues are, we would want to push it to the sides away from the swimming area,
Mhm.
and the parking becomes a big issue, right? So if we have swimming days and boat launching days, then it's already limited to begin with. So if there was an opportunity to get we talked about possibly getting a parcel across the street where we might be able to do parking, and then kind of an alleyway or easement from that. And it would be across the street on Sandy Pond Road, I believe.
Yeah.
Not across,
That would be on Snake
what's the
Hill
name?
Road. Snake Hill Road.
Snake Hill Road, yeah. So you wouldn't have to cross a busy street. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that, but like I said, the biggest key there is the parking.
Yeah.
Off
I think
season,
for the moment,
maybe it's
keeping those
feasible,
separate.
but
Yeah, go ahead.
what's that?
I would say for the moment, keeping the two projects separate, otherwise we'll get bogged down on. We've been needing to move forward on Flanagan's Pond we've been getting comments, and I think we keep that separate for now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I'll tell you,
I'm
I
glad
don't
you're
know that the
advancing it.
commission will ever, I just don't know that the commission would support a boat launch at Sandy Pond without expanded parking. We just can't. We don't have the capacity to do it during the summer months.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll be trying to get that together. I'm not sure if it'll be ready for the February meeting, but if not, then, well, we try to have it ready for the February meeting.
At least a pre-application, I'll say it that way. I think that might be good.
Yeah.
And then a full application for March. I
Yeah.
think that would work out.
And then public hearing, when? Would that be April?
No, we figured out probably the end of March,
Oh, right.
we're talking about,
Yeah.
to have
Right.
all four as one public hearing. Okay, anything else for new business?
No,
All right, just anything quick with regards to committee reports? I don't have anything for Housing Authority.
conservation, our agent Joanne Christoph, who did a great job, has resigned.
Sorry to hear that.
And she had done some really good outreach with landowners for potential future purchases. You can only push landowners to move so fast if they're interested down the road, but she had some excellent connections. So I will be serving as the interim administrator while we're doing the job search. So, and
Thank
just part-time, so.
All right. Well, I mean, she resigned, so she's no longer available. I mean, do you keep in touch with her at all?
Yeah, but she's resigned from the commission's work, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let her know that, we did appreciate what she has done, please.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. She was doing such a great job.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, I think it's just a little burnout, like,
Mhm.
a lot of the town area, several town areas. I always like to say this in public too, is that, you know, the town has changed, its needs have changed. And the staffing has to adjust around that, so we keep good people and don't burn people out and such.
Agreed. Agreed.
I was going to mention the Wild and Scenic Grant opportunity. So I believe it launches officially in February again. So if anyone knows of smaller projects related to, you know, sort of, it includes historic and cultural resources, because those are values associated with the wild and scenic area, as well as the conservation, open space and recreation, issues and priorities. So if anybody would like to talk about any ideas, I'm certainly open to, you know, having discussions and seeing if something might be feasible for that. And then on that topic, last year, there was a grant awarded to Ayer for the signs, and I didn't know if that project had been done, Jess, because I know Joanne and Faith were both really involved, and then I just never had an
That's
opportunity.
actually, it's on our agenda for tomorrow night. Joanne was working closely on that also with Mark Phillips and George Bacon on our commission. And Mark is really sort of taken over negotiating. We're going to be just playing around a little bit with some of the locations tomorrow night, revisiting that, because it's just it's a nightmare trying to get permission to put signs on Mass DOT highways. And I think Mark said something like there's just even a $500 fee just to apply to put something on there. So for Route 2A, that would be a problem. But I think we have other areas, but that's moving forward. That is moving forward.
Let's talk offline more about it, and because in particular we want to understand the timing of it, because you might need an extension to the funding. So
I don't think so. We've got the signs are over, signed, having some sign designs amended this week or next week. And Mark's been in close contact with Express Signs, so we're almost ready to go.
Okay.
So it's moving forward. Oh, can I just add one other thing then? Are you done with that question, Beth? Yeah. I just wanted to mention one other thing is Robert's in the town manager's has been in talks with North County Land Trust to contract with the town to take over managing the conservation restrictions. So that's proceeding, and hopefully we'll have something in place in the next few months.
That would be really helpful.
Really good, not only to work with them, but also to keep a good relationship with them because of open space and land acquisition stuff too. So, yeah.
on the topic of conservation restrictions, just while it's on my mind, we never got a conservation restriction on the Tooker property when we acquired that.
That's on the list.
Okay, so I think that the holder of that property really makes sense to be Fish and Wildlife, and I have talked to them about that. So we should revisit this sooner rather than later, because in order to be eligible for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, we need to be in compliance with all of our conservation restrictions on any properties that were acquired with CPA funds. So
right. That's part of the impetus for establishing this with North County Land Trust. They know how to do it and get them set up, and conservation office just hasn't had the staffing to be able to keep up with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Definitely on our radar. So.
All right. Okay, Barry, any update with Stark?
Not today. I don't have anything today. The only thing I wanted to add, I know you had asked about the Shirley Street School, which was the Air Kitty, and that's covered under the St. Mary's Form B.
Okay.
So if you go to Macris and you look at the St. Mary's, it also is included with St. Mary's and the school and the pastor's home, the rectory.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. You're welcome.
All right. Okay, Colleen?
No, I don't have anything. We're meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is having a joint meeting next week with Affordable Housing Committee, so nothing new to report.
Okay, sounds great. Julie?
I am 90% certain we passed the Ayer Fields meet whatever we were doing with them. I'm sorry, it's been a month since then, and we all know how the world is, but we met on that, and I'm pretty sure it passed. And we had a great discussion about it. Thank you.
All right. When's your next town planning meeting?
You're asking a lot of questions.
That's all right. I'll look it up. Don't worry.
No, it's got to be Tuesday. So
Okay.
It
Right.
wasn't last night, though. right?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. Which is why I'm a little rusty.
Right. No problem. All right. And Jason, anything else?
Not really. We'll be clearing the perimeter path of snow when we get it as much as we can. I'm trying to keep the parking lots clear so that can still be used over the winter time. That's all I got other than the Kitty Johnson.
All right.
I did just want to mention really quickly that one of the things that I heard was that Heidi Cowley, a teacher at Page Hilltop, is working on curriculum to get third graders to start to go to Sandy Pond School for a day or, for a session. So it's just so amazing to hear, like this great investment in the restoration of this historic property is going to be such a amenity that the students can experience and utilize and learn so much about the history of our community. So that was really exciting. I wanted to share that because I thought you'd be interested.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I wish I was in third grade again. All the opportunities that they have, nature's
Hey.
classroom or whatever.
As you get older, we shrink in height, so you could pretend.
I could get away with it.
And I'm sure they'll be looking for volunteers. So just keep that Corey updated and and see what you can do.
It's updated. Julie received mine for St. Mary's. So, all right. Okay. Anything else? Our next meeting is February 2nd at 7 o'clock. And if there's nothing else, it is 8:44. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.